Toxsam, thank you for joining me on this session. Thank you for taking time for a quick conversation. We only have 30 minutes today, and I have a lot of questions to cover. But first of all, welcome and thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me, Swiss. It's nice to see you here in Decentraland.
Yeah, man, I've seen you around Twitter a lot, and I'm reading your stuff, and sometimes we even interact a little bit. And the thing is, you are the man behind the company Polygonal Mind?
Yes, I'm the founder and owner.
The thing is, asking you questions is kind of tough for me because on one hand, I want to know about you as an individual, but at the same time, the whole mission of the company and the whole idea of being so early in this rather exciting space makes it just very seductive to rather ask about the company first. And so is this a common issue you're facing, that people kind of identify you more with the company brand rather than with you?
Yeah, it happens a lot. At the end of the day, I spend most of my time working for for the company, so and it is very related to me.
All right. So one thing that I want to start off first is when I've seen your Twitter profile, you have a CryptoVoxels link on there.
Yes.
So you're not a purist, not a Decentraland maximalist per se. So you're really like paying attention to everything going on in the space. Can you speak a little bit about like not being a maximalist and just like the whole virtual space as a whole and you as a businessman, what is the opportunity that you see here? Why are you on all of these networks? Why are you playing all of these games? Why are you actively participating in all of the communities? What's the driver there for you?
Okay, so the driver for me is to build the metaverse. I believe all these platforms are different layers of the metaverse. So I'm not a maximalist because for me, Decentraland is just another layer. It's a very populated layer with a lot of traffic and a lot of people in it, and more will come. But believing that only Decentraland is going to be used is blinding yourself. I come from game development environment, and it's pretty common to see companies go on, rise and go all the time. So unless you have a really super really based company that will stick for a long time, is you don't get tied to things really much. So I like to think around the metaverse and around how it will evolve, and I see all these companies and platforms becoming into social companies, like social platforms, pretty much like Facebook or Instagram or even WhatsApp, right? And I can see that all of them will survive, but some of them will have different audience and different target and different perspectives. CryptoVoxels might evolve into blogging space, for example. Decentraland can evolve into a more business-oriented place for, kind of the Silicon Valley of crypto, but decentralized. Some new space could evolve into rich neighborhoods of people, very seductive, VR chat can evolve into many different places. For me, what's important for me is the metaverse as a whole, and planting seeds around all the layers of the metaverse allow us to kind of do whatever we want without having to be focused on one place, because sometimes development can be fast, sometimes development can be slow. So being in the middle point help us to kind of see all the different places without having to marry with one of them.
That shows that you're an entrepreneur, man. It's a smart move. Not betting on one particular project, but betting on the whole trend in itself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So let's cover a few different bases and then try to connect like all the dots together for the final question. So you guys have been developing fashion assets for Decentraland, I believe, in the first wave.
Yes.
Can you, like most of us don't necessarily know what happened in the backgrounds when we suddenly had the possibility of creating player wearables inside Decentraland, which was a heavily discussed subject. And all of a sudden, there were a couple of teams that were allowed to mint wearables, and you were one of those teams. And could you give us a bit of an insight what happened in the background and how this whole thing went down?
Okay. So I guess the first thing is to mention that we joined Decentraland around 2 years ago. When we joined, there was nothing, and pretty much we were the only team that had been doing game development before joining Decentraland. The other teams were starting their game development path with Decentraland, and we had experience prior to that. And during all this time, we have been doing a lot of different buildings and experiences in even games with, kind of good quality because we're 3D artists. So we are very, technically prepared to create 3D models. And I think that's what get us in the first wave of creators, being there all the time. And we also help the Decentraland team on some stuff. They help us out. Also,
so there was a connection between you and the Decentraland team, and now there is this possibility, and you were immediately included into this first batch because there was this relationship. And then I would actually like to hone in a little bit on the mechanics of the whole thing. Like, did you guys come up with some kind of proposal and then you build it out? And how, just a few more details for how it feels like to be a designer of those things for Decentraland, because we were all just watching from the outside and we have no idea, what actually like.
Yeah, of course. I mean, wearables for Decentraland was a theme and something that has been talking about them for months. Maybe a year ago was already, a subject into Decentraland. So there was this time where I was thinking that Decentraland was going to release the platform to allow people to mint wearables, and we prepared for that very early, like probably in February or something. And after speaking with the team, I realized that making wearables for Decentraland is not that easy because you have to have these technical skills so your wearables are not broken, right? In CryptoVoxels, it's very easy because they have a very easy way to attach the items to the body, but in Decentraland it's more complex. It's like a game. You have to create and have someone who knows how to rig, how to model, and how to create stuff. So we knew about how to make wearables because we created wearables when they released the first PDF about how to create wearables, right? Mm-hmm. So we took this PDF, we create some wearables, and we were like, when can we mint them? And they were like, oh, wow, just slow down. We cannot, we are not allowing this yet. It's going to be months before we do this. And I was like, okay.
So you guys were ready to go like way ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, making wearables and making variations and making clothing for us is not a big deal because we have done that in many games in the past. And after that, you just sit down one day, list up whatever you want, get references, and then get it done, right? So it's not complex.
Let me turn around and let me show you. I will try to get you. Could you turn a little bit inside Decentraland?
Yeah.
So this design was actually around for some time, or was this custom made for that particular first
this
wave?
one, for example, is a design took from another game we had because we had an artist creating this logo specifically for that game that never got released. And once we knew that we were going to be the first ones, I was like, we need to do something with the logo of Polygonal Mind, and I thought of this design very quick, like, this jacket that Neo has in Matrix movie.
That's right.
And we tried to make it super long, but the Decentraland team we decided not to do it because technically it's very challenging. So we pushed it the most we could without breaking it or making it look
because this coat was one of the most demanded items, I believe. People loved that coat when it came out.
Yes, it had this cult feeling. I really like it. I mean, I designed it myself. Oops. I designed it myself, and I'm not sure why people like it.
Toxsam, you got to come back to the picture. We don't see you anymore. Have you jumped down?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm routine. I'm routine.
You're the first guest who jumps down from the building in the middle of the conversation, man. Okay, man, I see. So, let's switch gears a little bit because I feel like we could probably spend a couple of hours just on the whole, on the background story of the wearables
Yeah.
project. And honestly, I would love to, but there is just a couple of things that I would like to ask you about. And maybe at some point in the future, we can dig into some of the details because I would be very interested in knowing how this whole process works out because I still believe that I would also like to give it a shot at, at creating wearables. And in the last conversation with Matty last week, he mentioned that there might be a possibility for us to, to create wearables inside the builder and so forth. Do you know anything about that already?
Yes, I know they're working on tools that will allow people to create easy wearables. If you want, for example, something like crazy, like this hot dog hat, maybe that's not possible. But if you want like to create a t-shirt or some trousers or some sneakers, there are ways already available in the market in other games that can allow you to create just in an easy way. So I think the Decentraland team is going forward for that. So if you want something like super crazy, you will have to apply and have the license. But if you want something like a t-shirt for your company or for your project, there's high chances that you will be able to do that yourself or anybody will be able to do that.
So the big challenge there is really how to keep the game economics alive by allowing everyone to participate in this game. That means, I mean, you have had some experience now with how the economics work for your wearables that you minted. How do you think about game economics in general? How important are those for Decentraland? How do they maybe tie in with mana? And how does a high mana potentially impact the whole Decentraland experience? Do you have any particular thoughts that you would like to share on that? It's a big question, but
yeah, no worries, no worries. I think Decentraland to be a really monetized game, there is a long way from here. I mean, just having a few wearables or a few game items is not going to create a huge economy. I think most of the projects and most of the teams will have to have a secondary place to monetize on mana or monetize on their items. And the reason for that is because the Decentraland is, as you know, it's a scarcity. The land is scarce, so probably some games will need and will demand more space. And for those games are usually the games that people get hooked on, right? Because you can have a lot of freedom, you can spend a lot of time in the game. So I'm not really sure when that's going to happen because we try different approaches with our own games, and also right now Decentraland is not very populated. It is way more populated than in the release, but we are still not there yet to have a sustainable economy or sustainable development team focused and dedicated just for this.
Okay, I mean, you have taken this conversation into another direction, but I like it. I hope you don't mind me interrupting you from time to time to just guide it a little bit into where I want to end up at the end of the 30 minutes.
Sure. Sorry, the question was so broad that I brought it into my garden, So yeah, I think the game and the platform has a lot of potential, but I'm not sure if wearables are the only way to sustain the place and sustain the economy. It is going to be something very interesting in the future for sure. And the more we open the market, the more people we will be seeing getting inside the game. I have no doubt about it. The moment we can mint any t-shirt, we will be starting to see a lot of artists creating their own t-shirts and creating their own market and being more interested into bringing their community and start developing their own store in the Decentraland and all these kind of things. But until we have more freedom, this is just like a test. Okay, we made some money with wearables, but it's not sustaining the whole company out of selling wearables, right? It's just one of the things that you do. I think I think about wearables more about the community that bought them, or community that you want to sustain, and you want to participate with them and play with them, and take it into your Discord and educate it into your own staff. So it's not the whole economy itself around wearables. It's just one part of it. Like the only thing is it seems that it's the only way to kind of produce content right now. Well, that's kind of the way I see it.
So you see it as if it's like a tribe identity, a tool to build a tribe around a group of people, and using a variable for that.
Yes,
I agree with you. So the Bitcoin glasses that you're wearing on your character now, just to get a little bit away from the high level thinking, do you believe that out of 100 of these Bitcoin glasses, yours might be appreciating in value at an exponential level because it's one of the early in-game items and it's like a bit of an OG item? Could that be possible?
Yeah, I think it will be possible. I've seen many games in the past having like revalue items from time to time, right? In World of Warcraft, you have this mount that is very, very rare, and you can sell it, and it goes for way, 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 for a lot of money, And the moment they released, it was expensive, but years later, it is even more expensive. So probably the glasses will be more expensive in the future. I have no doubt about it because there's no more Bitcoin glasses, right?
It's exactly the same thing I was thinking. The question is, let's say everyone has the possibility to mint items, and there's going to be a liberal market for the creative part of the community. Maybe there is going to be a licensing setup that will allow to keep some kind of value attached to each newly created item. But then the question is, for those guys who came in early and who started investing into launch shirts and so forth, and in Bitcoin glasses, and maybe even some of the early mints, like the stuff that you guys created, like, are these items going to maintain value, or is there going to be a very strong dilution?
I think they will get value, because if someone else mints Bitcoin glasses, that makes the first Bitcoin glasses more valuable, to my opinion, because they're so good that people want them and they cannot have it, so they're replicated.
Interesting.
Right? So let's say Nike, right? Nike sells their own clothing, but there's people that cannot afford Nike and they buy this cheap of rebrands, right? That, for me, in my opinion, that makes the brand stronger, because you're giving more. You want that item, but you cannot have it, so you can replicate it, but it's not going to be as good, or it's not going to be the first one, right? So you're going to generate a second market for cheaper looking, or maybe they are exactly the same, but people will be like, oh, these are not the original ones,
It creates a bit of a contrast, making the original item act more visible because of that contrast. There is something to compare it with, to value it against.
Yeah.
Such an interesting way of seeing it. I kind of consider myself a creative thinker, but I did not think of that way of reflecting upon that. Very interesting, man. This takes us to the next conversation. You guys are building stuff, so digital assets is your business, pretty much, right? So
yeah.
Or is that an incorrect statement? Please correct me if this wasn't accurate.
We're a creative development studio. We get paid for doing game assets, but we also get paid for developing, buildings or avatars or specific parts of projects. Or it's not just game assets. Game assets is one part of the revenue.
Would you consider it as an interesting business model for the future to create and mint assets as NFTs? Is that even a viable proposition? How do you see the marketplace for that?
Yeah, I think so. If it wasn't for that, I would haven't launched crypto avatars in the first place. I think NFTs have a huge value because you can have scarce digital assets, which it might seem not very important, but for someone who is a gamer and spends thousands of hours in front of the computer, it's very important for them. And I used to be one of those guys, right? So I understand that if you spend days in front of a computer trying to get an item, once you have it, it's very important for you, and you're not going to sell it. And maybe in the future, that kind of asset reevaluates, and you can make some profit out of it. So,
Toxsam, hold on. But we need to
yeah.
dig in a little bit deeper here. Let's say you have an in-game item that was given to you for some sort of accomplishment, and then it's a rare item and it has market value. I understand that logic. But let's say you and I, we create two buildings. We mint them as NFTs in the future, and we put them onto the marketplace. And in theory, anyone else with the skills could build a similar building as well. So there is no scarcity by design. All of a sudden, everyone can create and mint something. In that space, what kind of business model could be possible? Could you imagine a marketplace that is run by your company only, and you kind of put up items onto that marketplace that you sell to people? But in theory, I could come up with my own marketplace and compete with you for a similar type of items. Could you?
Yes, I can imagine that. The thing is, with decentralization, we have pure free market, right? So I think what we will be starting to see is places that curates content, like super rare or non-origin. They're curating the creators that goes in, and when you buy from those places instead of Rarible, you're buying the quality against the other place, right? Because you're safe that the person behind the avatar is the person you want to support, and it's not a scammer, or it's not someone that I think regional places and regional marketplaces will be very important in the future, and it will be what people will be fighting for reputation, right? My marketplace has a reputation of always doing cool-looking, highly cool-looking places, cartoon places, and maybe your marketplace is specialized on doing hyper-realistic buildings, high-quality ones, right? So I think that's where the market and where people is going to fight against a free market, because again, everybody can do it, but you want you want the design from this specific person or from this other specific designer. That's very important right now. Right now, you could create your website, right, using Weebly, or you can pay a firm and create a website for you. The market will depend on what's your need, right? If you're a new guy in the scene, or you're new into Decentraland, maybe you are not looking to spend that much. But if you are a company and you want your place into Decentraland to be very optimized, with no trouble, with all these other features that can plug into your company very well, for that you will need a company and someone who is more professional, and that's where the curational comes from, right? And those NFTs will be valuable.
So the Polygonal Mind strategy is to make custom solutions for high-end clients that value a certain reputation and a certain brand, that who care about how they're being viewed in the world, and they want to have their assets created by the best in the space. This is you're aiming at that level. Now, if I want to be in the same business but be more in a commoditized sector where I create 50 copies of an NFT with one particular building type, and I just offer it at a low cost for people to download to get started, would you see that as a viable business model, or are people actually going to prefer building stuff themselves? And this kind of takes us to the conversation of So
I think the issue is right now the most of people who use Decentraland are pioneers that are one army mans that doesn't mind getting their hands dirty into building stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But probably the next wave of people who will join us is either very business oriented, so they want to hire someone to create a building for them, or they are clients, they're just players that just want to have their own place and place a couple of places and start to modify themselves, but not into code stuff or to make games, just to decoration. So for the business oriented, we will be a good solution. But for people who is more new, or maybe they don't have all the capacity, something like you will be a good solution for them.
Toxsam, tell me, we need to make a very particular distinction here, because then there's the SDK crew, people who know how to program and can be a little bit more technical. But then there is also a conversation around creating a builder for the everyday user, where everyone could actually build something, and that would be part of the Decentraland experience of, actually putting something together, being creative as a non-technical user. And I'm a big proponent to actually have a simplified builder that is accessible by everyone. And I'm wondering, like, it's a similar question to the wearables question. By allowing more freedom and by allowing for people to be more creative and try to build something themselves, is this something that is going to be cannibalizing your business and potentially something that I'd like to do? Or is this going to be beneficial to the ecosystem? Because people would
going to be beneficial. It's going to be beneficial because there's always going to be this hesitation, right? I don't mind. There's already people paying other people to use the builder for them. So why not? It's not going to be this happening in the future, right? I mean, I'm all in favor of creating easy tools for anybody to build in Decentraland. That's probably one of my main complaints in Decentraland since the early beginning, because I was very happy when I joined CryptoVoxels and I saw that after buying my land, I could just go there and build, right? And it was very frustrating for me to join Decentraland, get a place, and not being able myself to do it, because I'm an artist and I don't get along with any lines of code. So I cannot deploy myself my own stuff. So I rely on my team to do it. So I've been being very, I've been always looking forward to have easier tools like this, like CryptoVoxels have, to implement into Decentraland. I think that's coming. That's for sure. That will come really, really soon, I hope. I don't think it's going to cannibalize our business, because we're a professional team. We can create something for you if you're a business, if you're a company, or you are someone who wants a huge gallery and you want to be just unique. You will need to hire a professional team to do it, because you can hire other people, but it's not going to be the same. I mean, we take this very seriously. We have project deadlines. I have a team that is optimized. They know how to do their stuff. We have been doing it for 6 years now, so it's not. I don't think. Of course, I would like to be building all Decentraland, right? If it was for me, I would be the only builder around. But that's not a fair game, and I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So also, that's one of the main reasons why we are in different places and in different ecosystems and different platforms, because we cannot just depend on people on Decentraland.
But Toxsam, you're obviously here also to talk about your business and to position yourself in the marketplace as a quality developer. So let's give it a couple of minutes on that topic. What's the difference between what you guys could produce for a serious business that wants to have a presence in Decentraland versus some kind of ready-made, ready-to-deploy, player-made solution?
Okay. For example, we can create a guest book that you can gather all the people who visited your plant, and we can provide you that. We can also gamify your business. For example, if you are a creator of content and you teach with that creation, we can create an interaction between the player and Decentraland that can gamify that, right? Let's say I create 3 NPCs that talk to you all the time and provide you solutions and provide things that actually you need to code them, right? You need to create this functionality for the person who wants to produce it. Or let's say we can create a business place that can automatically gather their data from your website and be displayed directly into Decentraland. So you don't have to, so the visitors don't have to go to your website. They can enjoy it actually into your scene.
Are there any limits of what you can do, or you can pretty much execute on anything that is possible in Decentraland?
Decentraland is very open. I can think some limitations. Most of them are visual. We are experimenting with something really big right now, and pushing, you eventually get something very interesting. The great thing about the SDKs allow you to do many things. I think in the future we'll be seeing things that we cannot even imagine right now.
So if tomorrow I come to you with a semi-serious budget and I tell you I want to run a gambling location on a big parcel of land, this obviously involves a lot of technical headaches. In theory, would you be able to execute on something like this, or does this go beyond of what a creative studio does?
I think anything that has to be around Decentraland is something we can create, because we are an independent team, and as an independent team, we grow and shrink depending on the project load, right? It's not just the people who is in the team right now, it's people that I know that I can plug into the team and plug out to create whatever you want. So if you want to create, I don't know, 1,000 land parcel with gambling, we can scope you that, we can create you, break down the project into different phases, how it's going to be built, in what time, when, how. So we have the capacity to create this pre-planning and then execute on it. Whether with the builder, you don't have these kind of abilities.
No, you don't. Unfortunately, you don't. Toxsam, I have one last topic that I would like to cover, and obviously, like, we are already way over 30 minutes, and I haven't even gone through into any detail on any of the topics. It's as usual, quick. And,
it's okay.
But one thing I wanted to know, and this is something I totally missed on, can you talk a little bit about the crypto avatar CEO project? Because I did not understand exactly what this was all about, and now that I have you on here, maybe you could spend a couple of minutes talking about it.
Yeah, really good questions, because we updated the website recently to try to explain that. So, as you know, we've been working on different places, and in the past we did commission avatars into VR chat community, and we discovered a really good market. I as a character artist myself, I really love that market, right? I really love doing avatars and doing characters for other people. So when I joined Decentraland, I saw like, okay, why you can buy land and you cannot buy avatars? Because people want avatars. People want to be something different in Metaverse. So crypto avatars is an interoperable project placed in the middle of all these websites and all these platforms. So you can have the same avatar in all these different platforms. So you can keep your identity across the Metaverse, right? So it's an interoperable NFT that you can plug and use in different places as an avatar. It's already ready to use. And the great thing is that we can also plug the license of usage into the file format. So that's kind of the thing, keeping your avatar in Decentraland, in CryptoVoxels, in Somnium Space, in VR chat, wherever you are, wherever you want to be, keeping your identity.
Now, this is in the ideal scenario. In the future, you will be able to use those avatars like that. But today, if I'm like the two avatars that we're seeing right now in Decentraland, we cannot just replace those with a different avatar, can we?
We have done that in our own scenes. We have achieved that by passing some of the rules of Decentraland and some stuff, but it is not possible right now in Decentraland, but it will be in the future. So
that actually means that if I can go to a store, to your store, I can, for let's say 10,000 mana, buy an avatar which I know has been maybe minted 1,000 times, so I'm likely to meet that avatar again. If I want to have something more rare, I buy something for 100,000 mana, and I'll have like a one-off amazing avatar. I'll load it into the game. I can use it all over Decentraland as soon as this is allowed for. But then, if I step into a portal and teleport myself into CryptoVoxels, I will show up in CryptoVoxels with the same avatar, with the same visual resolution, and I just move on and live my life
that's the idea. With crypto voxels, we have to figure out a way to make the model into voxels. So once you step into crypto voxels or into Sandbox, your model will become a pixelized or voxelized version of it, but will be the same model.
And then if I step into Sandbox, it'll be a tiny, even more pixelized version of it.
Exactly.
But this is, yeah, this is a very interesting idea, and I'm looking forward to, like to see more freedom on the platforms for these things to actually play out. All right, man. I probably need to check out. You mentioned that other people did not fully understand the project, and you had to provide more explanation on the topic on your website. Did I understand that right?
Yeah, exactly. We updated like last Friday we updated it because after launch, only a few people understand the project, and that's why they invested in it, right? And then on all these weeks we have been gathering feedback and questions from all the people around, like people who was interested but didn't invest, people who were not clear about it, or even users that have, I am onboarding a lot of artists that are not in the blockchain space, so they have a lot of questions and issues. So all those questions have been answered, and we have placed them in the website, and we will be updating it because teaching people is one of the main things that we have to do in this space.
Toxsam, the last question before we take a selfie and stop the recording. You have a little bit a feeling, you have the insights in the industry, and you are better connected with the development team, I imagine, from what you have said. Are we early adopters, or are we just at the right time, or how do you see this whole thing play out? Because a lot of us have put money into this ecosystem, and looking backwards, we might have rather bought some crypto with that money and waited until the platform matures further. And then on the other hand, maybe it makes actually sense to come in early, and maybe the land prices are actually quite low for what's going to be in the future, and maybe buying those wearables of the fashion shows actually made sense. It's very difficult to understand like how early or how late to the development we are. And could you have like, you obviously are representing a business, so for you it's vital to be there at the right time and not be too late or too early.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that today?
I think we're super early. I think we're still early, in very, very early. I'm not maybe the most business oriented decision maker. I'm more into the gut feeling of things. I wouldn't be doing anything else, right? Even if you pay me more for it, I will be doing anything else. I know this is going to happen. I think we are super early. Everyone who is right now in this core of Decentraland is super early. I think Decentraland will evolve into a business-oriented place. So buying here early will probably be beneficial for you, because later on it's going to be crowded, and people is going, once people start to see the benefits of it, it will start to populate probably really quickly. And I think most of the people we talk in Twitter, in Discord, and all these platforms are really early adopters. And the reason behind is because I've been always very early on anything, right? And then my friends jumped in. I remember playing World of Warcraft, and then my friends jumped in, and now I'm doing this, and my friends are starting to ask about crypto now. So probably 2-3 years they will be jumping into this, and I consider myself someone young, but not super young. So to see mass adoption and to see, late 40s and 40s people, 50s people to jump into this is just madness. It's not going to happen right away unless there's like this benefit for sure that they are going to be profiting or getting something good for it, because they are used to that. And for teens, they have other platforms. But if we prepare this, they will jump in and they will be the drivers of adoption in the future. So I think we're super early, man. Like probably you won't be seeing Decentraland super populated until 2 years or 3 years from now.
Okay, that's a dire perspective, but I guess to position yourself already now and starting like to build a brand around yourself, maybe it is still early, but it might bring advantages going forward. I mean, honestly, a lot of things can happen in 3 years, and now with the VR glasses that are coming out with Oculus and Facebook and so forth, they are estimating to sell millions of units just in 2020. Um, with Decentraland potentially switching over to VR at some point as well, it just feels like maybe 3 years is a very generous target. With the crypto booming and with the lockdowns continuing and VR being like almost commercially available now, it feels like maybe it's not actually that far away. But I agree with you. For Decentraland to be like a populated, busy, crazy world where you can, but where you don't come to shoot and kill monsters, but you come to hang out, to be in a social network, to trade, to jump into other universes with your newly bought characters and so forth. Maybe this will actually happen a little bit earlier, man. I'm curious to see what will happen, but I will definitely, think about it now a little bit more with a long-term perspective. If you consider that we are like really, really early on.
I mean, Decentraland released this year, and it was almost empty. It was bugging, it was not working. Maybe 3 years is too much. I don't know how things will go, right? We all have this 2020 who has been crazy year, and a lot of things have speed up, right? So maybe we see adoption early, but the reason that a lot of headsets are being sold, it doesn't mean that they are going to be used all the time, and that people is going to be replacing TV anytime soon to consume content. I think the youngest people in the families who buy these headsets are going to be the ones who will be using a lot. And probably later on, since these early younglings use it too much, the parents will be forced to spend time with them. And that's where adoption will probably happen. So even if the quests are not meant for kids, or they tell you that it's not meant for kids, probably kids and teenagers are going to be the ones using it the most. So,
Toxsam, I tell you, I got
this take time.
I got the headset and I started playing poker with it. This was like the second app I started playing. The first app was the Facebook alpha version of their venues location, and when I tried venues, I mean, it really got me hooked, and I understood why Decentraland is going to be an amazing place to be. But then when I went into the poker rooms, I realized that the majority of the guys in the poker room were like 60, 50, 70. You had the older guys sitting with their VR headset in the poker rooms and spending like every single night in there. All of their social relations are actually in there, and they have an insane community building up in there. And people would call me, "Hey, Swiss, how you doing?" And I would come in there and I'll be one of the youngest dudes. And then you have the kids who come in and scream and annoy everyone, and you cannot kick them out, right? But it's much more balanced than you would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it depends also on the game, right? If you're talking about the poker game, of course, there's going to be more mature. But if you go into VR chat, you're going to be seeing all kind of kids, or Rec Room, or all these massive used virtual worlds that are being used right now. Not specifically for a specific game, right? I spend a lot of time in Beat Saber, and I meet a lot of people, and most of them will be probably not that young. But when it means like spending a lot of time doing nothing, and doing absolutely nothing, I remember myself jumping just in World of Warcraft just for the fun of it for hours. So I can see that happening into being them the one who spend most time, and then evolving into people who use this all the time.
Oh man! By any chance, have you ever played Ultima Online before World of Warcraft?
No. I joined World of Warcraft very early, and I was super hooked on it forever. I mean,
It's so
I don't
funny.
play it anymore.
Oh man, but you missed those times, I imagine.
Kind of. I think thanks to those times, I know how to speak English very frequently, right?
All right.
And I know, and I get hooked on this virtual world environment. So I don't, I miss them, but at the same time are part of me right now, and they have guided me into this spectrum. Because at the time when I was playing World of Warcraft, my parents were crazy because I was, failing exams all the time. I was repeating courses. I was such a dropout, because of World of Warcraft. But if you think on perspective, that kind of makes me the person who I'm today, and that's kind of the why I think the metaverse can work, because I spend so much time in virtual places. Then I can see that people will be seeing that in the future too. I have a lot of memories, 3D memories, even dreams, work places, right? So it's not so weird that people will be remembering 3D environments rather than real workplaces.
So Toxsam, final statement. If people happen to listen to this on YouTube, trying to figure out, what's available out there in terms of virtual worlds, especially a business, and they do not have the technical expertise, they would like to have some sort of presence, nothing too complicated, maybe with a person, starting to build a community early on, they could come to Polygonal Mind and they could ask for some kind of proposal, and you guys would be available to do that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And how do they initiate contact with you, should that be required?
Different places. We have people asking from our website, people coming into our Discord and just asking around. Also, people coming from Twitter asking us anywhere that you can see our logo. Just ask a question and we will just answer it as fast as we can.
So I will leave your Twitter account in the description below. Also, your website address so people can reach out. And I would like to thank you very much for taking the time. Hopefully, we will have a second opportunity sometime in the future to get into some of the details. But I think we have covered some of the most interesting key topics to start the conversation, to get the creative juices flowing, to get people a bit of an understanding of, from a business point of view, where we are at and what's possible today. And thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me, man.
I will